I once called you a waste. Now you're saving the whole system." The words hung in the air like a sharp blade slicing through the tension in the conference room on the 34th floor of Ventra Tower. Everything froze. The projector went silent. The Singapore partners waited on the flickering Zoom screen. And there at the center of it all, not a tech expert, not a senior executive, was a man in a faded gray janitor's uniform, his hands still smudged with machine oil. His name was Ryan Maddox. No one could fathom why the floor cleaner was standing amid the chaos of the executive suite. But just minutes earlier, he had single-handedly restored the building's emergency power system after an unprecedented short circuit using nothing but his bare hands and a personal screwdriver from his pocket. And the woman who had uttered those words, her voice trembling with a mix of shock and disbelief, was none other than Selena Drake, the CEO of Drake and Vinton Capital, one of the most powerful women in San Francisco's financial world. Rewind 3 weeks. Ryan Maddox lived with his 6-year-old daughter Lucy Maddox in a cramped rental apartment in the Mission District. He had once been a systems engineer at a cutting-edge AI and robotics research center in Palo Alto, but a workplace accident had left him unable to use his right arm for nearly a year. When he recovered, the company had replaced him with younger, cheaper talent. What followed was a downward spiral bankruptcy, losing their home, his wife walking out to find herself. Leaving Lucy behind at just 2 years old, Ryan had no credentials left to practice his trade. No engineering license, nothing but repair skills, a razor-sharp logical mind, and an unwavering love for his little girl. He landed the night janitorial job at Ventra Tower, the hub of multi-million-dollar firms that buzzed by day and fell silent by night. On his first night stepping into the 34th floor, the executive domain of Drake and Vinton Ryan paused. Not out of fear, but because he recognized the lighting and HVAC control systems architecture. It was 80% identical to a project he had once spearheaded, a project that had made him proud to call himself an engineer. Ryan Maddox lived a life divided into shadows and light, one that few in the glittering world of Ventra Tower could imagine. At 38, he shared a cramped one-bedroom apartment in San Francisco's Mission District with his 6-year-old daughter Lucy. The neighborhood was a patchwork of vibrant murals and faded storefronts where the air carried the scent of street food vendors and distant ocean fog. But for Ryan, it was a sanctuary of survival, far from the high-rises where fortunes were made and lost in boardrooms. Lucy was his anchor, a bright-eyed girl with curly brown hair and a laugh that could pierce the heaviest of days. She had been diagnosed with chronic lung disease 2 years earlier, a condition that required expensive nebulizer treatments and frequent doctor visits. The bills piled up like unanswered prayers, but Ryan never let her see the strain. Mornings were for her picking her up from the subsidized daycare, making simple meals like oatmeal with sliced bananas and reading bedtime stories from worn library books. "Daddy, will you fix the stars tonight?" she'd ask, pointing to the glow-in-the-dark stickers on her ceiling that had started to fade. He'd smile and promise, "Always, kiddo." 5 years ago, Ryan's world had been different. He had been a systems engineer at a state-of-the-art AI and robotics research center in Palo Alto, where he designed intricate control systems for automated prototypes. His work involved mapping electrical flows and integrating AI feedback loops projects that demanded precision and innovation. Colleagues called him a wizard with circuits, and he took pride in it. But during a late-night test run, a malfunctioning prototype arm had crushed his right hand, shattering bones and severing tendons. The recovery took nearly a year of painful physical therapy, and by the time he could grip a tool again, the company had moved on. They cited budget cuts, but Ryan knew it was his age and the liability he now represented. No engineering license renewal, no references, just a severance package that evaporated under medical debts. The fallout was swift. Bankruptcy swallowed their modest home in the suburbs. His wife, Sarah, couldn't handle the pressure. "I need to find myself, Ryan," she had said one rainy afternoon, packing a single suitcase and leaving Lucy behind at just 2 years old. Ryan didn't fight it. He focused on his daughter, scraping by with odd jobs until the janitorial position at Ventra Tower came along. It paid enough for rent and Lucy's basics, but the nights were long and lonely. He worked from 8 p.m. to 4 a.m., moving like a ghost through the building's corridors. Ventra Tower was a monolith of glass and steel in the financial district, housing firms like Drake and Vinton Capital on its upper floors. Ryan avoided eye contact with the late-working executives, emptying trash bins and polishing surfaces under the hum of fluorescent lights. To them he was invisible, a man in a gray uniform blending into the background like the HVAC vents he sometimes eyed with quiet familiarity. In the quiet hours, he'd think about his old life, the thrill of solving complex system puzzles. But reality grounded him, mornings rushing to get Lucy ready, afternoons napping on the worn couch before another shift. He carried a small toolkit in his pocket, a habit from his engineering days: screwdrivers, wires, strippers, a multimeter, tools that felt like relics of a lost identity. On that first night, as he wiped down the executive suite on the 34th floor, something caught his attention. The control panel for the lighting and climate systems was exposed during a minor maintenance check. He paused, tracing the wiring layout with his eyes. It was eerily similar to a project he had led years ago, an integrated network designed for efficiency and redundancy. 80% match, he calculated mentally. Not out of fear or curiosity, but a flicker of recognition, like greeting an old colleague in a crowded room. He didn't touch it then. Just finished his rounds and headed home, where Lucy waited with her drawings of robots and stars. But that moment lingered, a quiet reminder that the man pushing the mop cart had once built worlds from wires and code. Little did he know his invisible presence was about to collide with the visible chaos of those above him. 3 weeks after that quiet moment of recognition on the 34th floor, the fragile balance of Ryan Maddox's life began to crack under the weight of an unforeseen crisis. It started on a crisp Monday morning in San Francisco, where the financial district's skyline pierced a layer of low-hanging fog. Inside Ventra Tower, the executive suite of Drake and Vinton Capital buzzed with anticipation. Selena Drake paced the room, her sharp heels clicking against the polished marble like a metronome, counting down to a pivotal deal. The video conference with investors from Singapore was minutes away, a negotiation that could secure a $280 million infusion for the firm's expansion into Asian markets. But then, without warning, the lights flickered. Monitors across the room dimmed, then went black. The hum of the HVAC system sputtered to a halt, and the internal network crashed, severing all connections. Alarms beeped faintly from the control panels, but even those silenced as the backup power failed to engage. The room plunged into a semi-darkness, illuminated only by the emergency exit signs and the faint glow of laptop batteries. "What the hell is happening?" Selena demanded, her voice cutting through the rising murmurs. Her team scrambled, senior managers dialing IT support analysts, rebooting devices frantically. The on-duty engineer, a young man named Alex from the building's maintenance firm, was stuck in an elevator on the 12th floor, his panicked calls echoing through the intercom. "It's a total blackout on the central controls," he reported. "Overload from the new data center integration last night. The auxiliary switches aren't responding." Panic rippled through the room. The Singapore partners were already online, their faces frozen on the disconnected Zoom feed. Without power, the presentation files were inaccessible, and the secure data links for financial projections were down. Every minute of delay eroded trust, and with it, millions in potential capital. Selena's mind raced. She had built Drake and Vinton from a startup to a powerhouse through sheer control, but this was chaos beyond her grasp. Down on the 5th floor, Ryan Maddox was midway through his morning rounds, wiping down a lobby bench with a rag that smelled faintly of lemon cleaner. His shift had overrun slightly due to a spill in the atrium, but he moved with the same quiet efficiency as always. The toolkit in his pocket jingled softly, a multimeter, pliers, and that trusty screwdriver. He heard the commotion first as an unnatural silence, the building's usual mechanical hum had vanished. Then came the shouts from the elevators and stairwells. Curiosity drew him upward. He took the service stairs, avoiding the main elevators that were now jammed. By the time he reached the 34th floor, the executive suite was a hive of disorder. Executives clustered around dead screens, phones pressed to ears, barking orders at absent technicians. Ryan hesitated at the door, his gray uniform marking him as an outsider in this realm of tailored suits and designer accessories. Selena spotted him first, her eyes narrowing in recognition. She had reviewed his file after that unexplained fix on the 16th floor weeks ago, the security footage showing him deftly resetting a panel no one else had touched. It had intrigued her enough to dig deeper, uncovering his past as an engineer. But in the heat of the moment, doubt flickered. "You," she said, pointing. "Maddox right. The janitor who fixed that light panel before." Ryan nodded, stepping inside despite the stares. "I heard the alarms. Sounds like a central overload. The new data center, it's pulling too much from the auxiliary lines. If it's a reverse polarity lock, I might be able to." A senior manager, a burly man named Harlan from operations, cut him off with a scoff. You're the cleaner. What do you know about electrical grids? We've got professionals on the way 2 hours out, but they'll handle it." Harlan's tone dripped with disdain, his eyes raking over Ryan's uniform as if it were a badge of inferiority. Others murmured agreement. One analyst whispered, "Is he serious? We'll lose the deal if some mop pusher screws this up worse." Ryan felt the familiar sting of dismissal, the kind that had haunted him since his fall from grace. But he didn't back down. "I've seen this setup before," he said evenly, his voice steady despite the knot in his stomach. "The polarity can freeze the switches. It's not just power. It's the integration with the building's smart controls. If you let me look at the main panel, I can isolate it." The room fell into an uneasy hush. Harlan laughed outright. "Listen, buddy, we don't need a janitor playing hero. Go back to your buckets." The words landed like punches, echoing the rejections Ryan had faced for years. Doors slammed by former colleagues' interviews ended with polite smiles hiding pity. Selena hesitated, her mind weighing the risks. The clock ticked mercilessly. The Singapore team was already questioning the delay via email. She recalled the footage again, Ryan's precise movements, no hesitation. "How long would it take?" she asked, ignoring Harlan's glare. 10 minutes tops," Ryan replied. "But I'll need access to the control room down the hall," Harlan protested louder. "Selena, this is insane! If he fries the system, we're looking at data loss permanent. The investors won't wait." She fixed Harlan with a steel gaze. "And if we wait 2 hours, we lose $280 million. Let him try." Turning to Ryan, she added, "Do it, but if you fail, it's on me and you." Ryan nodded, his heart pounding, not from fear, but from the ghost of his old self stirring. He moved to the adjacent control room, a narrow space filled with humming servers and tangled cables. The team followed a skeptical procession. Harlan hovered close, arms crossed, muttering about liability. Kneeling before the main panel, Ryan pried it open with his screwdriver. The multimeter beeped as he tested lines his left hand, compensating for the lingering weakness in his right. Sweat beaded on his forehead under the emergency lights. He traced the overload the new data center had indeed spiked the auxiliary, creating a feedback loop that locked the polarity. "Here," he murmured more to himself. "Reverse current on the secondary switch." Harlan snorted. "What, you're an expert now? This isn't some home wiring job." Ignoring him, Ryan isolated the faulty circuit clipping wires with precision born from years of forgotten expertise. Minutes stretched like hours. The room's tension thickened, broken only by the occasional beep of failing backups. Selena watched intently, her phone buzzing with urgent messages from the investors. As Ryan reconnected the auxiliary feed, bypassing the overload, a low hum returned. Lights flickered tentatively. He held his breath, flipping the final switch. The panel lit up green. No alarms, no failures. The monitors in the conference room buzzed back to life, the Zoom feed reconnecting seamlessly. Harlan's face paled. How? But Selena's eyes were on Ryan, a mix of awe and calculation. "You did it," she said quietly. Ryan stood wiping his hands on a uniform. "It was just a loop issue, nothing permanent." He didn't elaborate, the weight of their stares reminding him of his place, or lack thereof. The meeting resumed, but the air had shifted. Whispers followed Ryan as he gathered his tools. Harlan avoided his gaze, the earlier mockery silenced. Yet Ryan felt no triumph, only a quiet resolve. This wasn't about proving them wrong. It was about the bills waiting at home, the treatments Lucy needed. As he headed for the stairs, Selena called after him. "Maddox, wait." But he kept walking, the echo of his footsteps, a reminder that some victories came without applause. Ryan worked methodically in the cramped control room, the air thick with the scent of heated circuits and the low buzz of emergency generators straining in the background. His fingers, calloused from years of both engineering precision and janitorial grit, danced over the exposed wiring. The multimeter's needle swung as he confirmed the reverse polarity lock, a feedback loop that had cascaded from the new data center's integration, freezing the auxiliary switches like a digital heart attack. Harlan loomed behind him, arms still crossed, his skepticism radiating like heat from an overtaxed server. "You're gonna blow the whole grid," he muttered, loud enough for the cluster of executives to hear. Selena stood at the doorway, her phone clutched tightly, the Singapore team's impatient messages lighting up the screen. She didn't interrupt, but her eyes tracked every move Ryan made, weighing the gamble she had just placed on a man in a janitor's uniform. Ryan ignored the murmurs. He clipped the faulty wire with a steady snip, rerouting the flow through a secondary conduit he knew existed from his initial glance at the system weeks ago. "Bypassing the overload," he said quietly, more to himself than the room. Sweat trickled down his temple, but his focus was unyielding, a remnant of nights spent debugging prototypes in Palo Alto labs, where one wrong connection could scrap months of work. With a final adjustment, he reconnected the auxiliary feed. The panel hummed to life, indicators flipping from red to green one by one. He held his breath, flipping the master switch. A soft whir filled the space, then escalated as power surged back through the building. Lights overhead brightened, gradually banishing the dim emergency glow. In the adjacent conference room, monitors flickered on the Zoom feed, reconnecting with the chime. The Singapore partners' faces reappeared, their expressions shifting from confusion to cautious relief as the presentation files loaded seamlessly. The control room erupted in a stunned silence, broken only by the rhythmic beep of stabilizing systems. Then, like a wave crashing, the executives exhaled collectively. An analyst whooped, clapping a colleague on the back. Harlan's arms dropped to his sides, his face draining of color as he stared at the glowing panel. "Impossible," he whispered, but there was no denying it. The building was alive again. The crisis averted in under 10 minutes. Selina stepped forward, her composure cracking just enough to reveal genuine astonishment. "You did it," she said, her voice low but carrying the weight of the room. "You just saved the entire company from a $280 million disaster." Ryan straightened, wiping his hands on his uniform pants. He met her gaze evenly without triumph. "It was a loop issue, nothing that couldn't be fixed with the right access. I've dealt with worse." He paused, glancing at the toolkit in his pocket. "I did it because, well, failure isn't an option when you have someone depending on you. My daughter Lucy, she needs me to keep going." Harlan cleared his throat, stepping closer with a reluctant nod. I was wrong," he admitted, his voice gruff. "That was some expert work. Sorry for doubting you." The apology hung awkwardly, but Ryan just nodded, no grudge in his expression. The other managers murmured agreements, their earlier disdain replaced by a mix of awe and embarrassment. One even extended a hand, which Ryan shook firmly, his grip steady despite the lingering ache in his right arm. As the team filtered back to the conference room to salvage the meeting, Selina lingered. Maddox a word. She gestured to her private office down the hall, a sleek space with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the bay. Ryan followed the contrast, stark his scuffed boots on the plush carpet surrounded by minimalist art, and a desk cluttered with financial reports. She closed the door, leaning against it for a moment before speaking. "I didn't pull your file out of thin air. After that fix on the 16th floor, the security cams caught it. I dug deeper. Ryan Maddox, lead engineer on AI-integrated control systems at Palo Alto Research. You authored a design for neural recovery robots that's now worth millions in commercialization." "What happened?" Ryan sat in the offered chair, his posture straight, but weary. "Accident on the job. Crushed my hand, took a year to recover. By then they had younger blood. No license renewal, no way back in. Life moved on. Or dragged me along." He didn't mention the bankruptcy or Sarah's departure. Those scars were private." Selina nodded, circling to her desk. "You're wasted mopping floors. I have a new security project enhancing our data infrastructure against breaches. I need someone with your insight. No formal credentials required. Be my technical advisor. Full-time with benefits that could cover whatever you need for your daughter." Ryan's eyes widened slightly, the offer hitting like a lifeline he hadn't dared hope for. "I'm not sure I fit in this world anymore," he said honestly, glancing at his uniform. "It's been years. And the corporate grind, it's what broke me before." She leaned forward, her intensity unwavering. "You don't have to fit the mold. I need your brain, your ethics, the kind that fixes problems without fanfare. Think about it. For Lucy." The name hung between them, a quiet motivator. Ryan thought of the nebulizer bills, the daycare struggles, the fading stars on Lucy's ceiling. "I'll try," he finally said. "For her." As he left the office, the building's hum felt different, less oppressive, more like a pulse he could sync with again. Back home that evening, Ryan slipped into Lucy's room. She was asleep, her small chest rising and falling steadily under the blanket. He sat on the edge of the bed watching her and whispered a promise to himself: no more, just surviving. Time to build again. But even in victory, he held on to his humility, knowing the man in the mirror was still the same toolkit in pocket heart, full of quiet resolve. 2 months after that pivotal moment in the control room, the grand ballroom of the Fairmont Hotel in San Francisco thrummed with the energy of Drake and Vinton Capital's annual year-end gala. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over tables draped in white linen where executives mingled with champagne flutes in hand. Laughter and toasts filled the air, celebrating a year of record profits bolstered by the timely salvage of the Singapore deal. At the front, a stage awaited the evening's highlights, and Selena Drake stood poised in a sleek black gown, her presence commanding as always. When she took the microphone, the room quieted. Tonight, we honor not just our numbers, but the people behind them. She began, her voice steady and resonant. We often assume success comes from titles and degrees, but I've learned otherwise. She paused, scanning the crowd. 2 months ago, during our most critical meeting, a blackout threatened everything. Our systems failed, our deal hung by a thread. And in that chaos, one man stepped forward, not from our board, not from engineering, but from the shadows where we rarely look. The audience stirred, whispers rippling as Selena continued. He fixed it all in minutes, with tools from his pocket and knowledge we didn't know he possessed. That man is Ryan Maddox. Spotlight swung to the back of the room where Ryan sat at a modest table dressed in a simple button-down shirt and slacks. No tie, no pretense. He rose slowly, the applause building like a wave as he made his way to the stage. For the first time in years, eyes met his not with dismissal, but with respect. Harlan, seated nearby, clapped along, his earlier antagonism softened into quiet acknowledgement. Selena handed him the microphone, her smile genuine. Ryan embodies what we often overlook: true talent. Doesn't need a badge. He's not just a hero of that day. He's a reminder that strength lies in quiet competence. The room erupted in a standing ovation, the sound washing over Ryan like a long-forgotten warmth. He gripped the podium, glancing at the sea of faces, and spoke simply. I didn't do it for recognition, he said. I did it because sometimes you see a problem and know you can fix it. And for me, every fix is for my daughter Lucy to show her that no matter how low life pushes you, you can rise for the ones you love. The applause swelled again as he stepped down, executives approaching with handshakes and offers of collaboration. Harlan pulled him aside briefly. You earned this, he said gruffly. No hard feelings. Ryan nodded, the exchange a silent closure to old tensions. In the weeks following the blackout, Ryan had transitioned into his role as technical advisor with cautious steps. Selena's offer had come with the salary that dwarfed his janitorial pay enough to cover Lucy's treatment specialists and even a small savings fund. He dove into the security project, redesigning data infrastructure to prevent breaches, his insights drawing from years of untapped expertise. Meetings in sleek offices replaced mop buckets, though he still carried his toolkit, a talisman of his roots. Selena and Ryan's professional bond deepened into a genuine friendship. Over coffee breaks in her office overlooking the bay's shimmering waters, they shared stories: her rise from a family of old money to self-made powerhouse, his fall from engineering promise to survival mode. You remind me why I started this, she confided once. Not for the power, but to build something resilient. Ryan appreciated her directness. In her, he found a mentor who saw beyond his past scars. Lucy's health improved steadily. The new insurance covered advanced therapies, and her energy returned in bursts, laughing more, playing longer. One evening, as the sun dipped low over Golden Gate Park, Ryan took her there for a picnic. The grass was soft underfoot, the air crisp with the scent of eucalyptus. Lucy chased butterflies, her small legs carrying her farther than before, her giggles echoing like music. Ryan watched from a blanket, a rare peace settling over him. For the first time since the accident, he felt whole, not defined by loss, but by the quiet victories that had rebuilt his world. As dusk fell, Lucy plopped down beside him, out of breath but beaming. "Daddy, are you a superhero now? Like in the stories?" He pulled her close, ruffling her hair. "Nah, kiddo. Just a dad who fixes things, but yeah, maybe a little super for you." She hugged him tightly, and in that embrace the weight of years lifted. No longer invisible, Ryan had found his place not in the spotlight, but in the steady rhythm of purpose and love. Back at the gala, as the night wound down, Selena raised a glass in a private toast with Ryan. "To overlooked talents," she said. He clinked his glass to hers. "To second chances." The city lights twinkled below, a reminder that even in the vast expanse of San Francisco's ambitions, one man's quiet resolve could illuminate the darkest corners. Ryan returned home that night, slipping into Lucy's room to kiss her forehead. She stirred slightly, murmuring in her sleep. He whispered back, "We made it, kiddo, and we're just getting started."